called upon by the Vice Chancellor then, Professor Orif Mugenda then, to start the School of Agriculture and Enterprise Development. And she also appointed me as the founder chair of the Department of Agribusiness Management and Trade at Kenyatta University. From there on, then I moved to Chuka University in 2014, and the Vice Chancellor then, Professor Joka, appointed me to chair the Department of Social Sciences. And in 2019, I successively vied for the deanship, and I became the dean. And I want to say that I was actually elected in absentia. I was in Sweden when I was elected the dean. And in 2021, I was re-elected as the dean. And then later on in 2023, I finished my deanship. And now I'm still there mentoring others to do research. And more importantly, in the context of what we are doing here today, I am among the people implementing the Uplift AG project. And for those of you who have the program, there's a small write-up on what the Uplift AG project is all about. Uplift is an acronym for universities promoting linkages for impactful training, innovation, and technology transfer in agriculture. So that's what we're implementing. In Kenya, it's a consortium of about 12 universities and 3 European partners. In Kenya, we have the lead institution, which is Kenyatta University, led by Professor Maina Mwangi. He should be the one sitting here, but he's out of the country in Germany. And KU is leading this particular project. The other university that is in this project is Taita Taveta University, led by my friend here, Dr. Mcharo, who is the Dean, Taita Taveta, and among the members. Chuka University, we have Shelvin Munyiri, and who is leading this particular project, and we are giving her the necessary technical and the technical backstopping. Having said that then, I want to say that I've been in academia for quite some time, for a period spanning for about 36 years or so. And therefore, as I sit here today, I would want to engage you in what are the problems, what are the issues, what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, and what should we do so that we can have an effective industry, university linkages and collaborations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. It's a heavyweight panel, so we are starting off with a bang today. And because of that, I know my panel can speak the whole day, but we don't have much time. And so I just request us to, as much as possible, we shall just be brief and to the point, and I know they're sufficiently experienced to do that. What we will do, again, because of the limited time, we will discuss 2 issues in one before now we throw the issues to the rest of the floor so that we can have a wider discussion. And I will start off with Mr. Kagwongo. 2 things. Potato is a big thing. And the history of potatoes, and when we talk about potatoes, generally we are talking about the industry, the farming industry, so to speak. So whatever you say, we take it as a representative in a way. And the history of potato goes back a long way in Kenya, probably at the turn of the last century. But we still do face challenges. One of them is the changing palette, the changing tastes. We are seeing new investors, we are seeing new products. And sometimes we are being told that, the potatoes that you have are not suitable for the kind of products that we need. International food chains are coming here and they're telling us we have to import our own potatoes because you don't have what we need. But the question is it insufficient researchers that we have, insufficient resources that we have, and has the National Potato Council engaged the agricultural research system, the academia, to come up with innovations with potatoes that are suitable for not just our local use, but also for the international market? Two, is there a framework that the Potato Council and generally the potato industry is engaging in to support research, to support the development of the next generation of potato scientists who shall be contributing to the development of potato industry in general, now and in the future? So, sir, could you please address those two and just let us know what the status is? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's true. Our tastes as Kenyans has been changing, and also business environment has changed. And at some point, we have seen international franchises coming into the country. And at some point, like 3 years or so, there was a heated discussion in terms of why potato from Kenya, our farmers, are not finding their way into the table of these fast foods or franchises. And some of the reasons given were genuine. It's mainly because first, we have not had a structured value chain to supply our potatoes to that kind of market. First, there is an issue of standards and issue of traceability, which are mainly requirement of most of these franchises, especially from the mother company. And it doesn't mean we could not have done it, but everything has its time, because after that, there's a time we joined together with ASNET and National Potato Council and approached some of these market outlets and had a discussion with them, and they told us exactly as it is, the reality of their business. And therefore, we came up with approaches in terms of what to put in place in terms of correct varieties. We already had those varieties that are recommended. We have different types of variety, although most people don't know. We have varieties that are good for processing. And when you talk about processing, we mean crisps or chips and frozen. Some varieties cannot be frozen. When you freeze them, they can't work. So there was a need to now create that cold chain framework, starting with the farmers being trained in terms of how to produce the correct sizes, grow the right varieties. So we have had a discussion, and since that, a number of processors have submitted the varieties that were already here and approved. And some of them are called Makis, some of them are called Sagitas, Tauras, and others, and have been approved. And what we are doing is to build the capacity of our farmers. It requires resources, and we were lucky. Recently, we were supported by AGRA, where we have come up with a project called Kenya Sustainable Potato Initiative, to support farmers from the production and getting seed, because right now there's a big shortage of seed. Everywhere you go, there's big shortage. So we are supporting seed producers to produce more and produce the correct varieties and train them also, and then linking them to these processors and producing standard. We are also working with AFA and other development partners to create standards and traceability in the system. So we have a project that is supporting that, and that's what need to be done with other crop, because there are specific requirements for you to access, or for our farmers to access these markets. And it can happen. It's only that we need to reorganize ourselves. We need to put the correct policies, regulations in place, and that is happening. You know, for many years we've been pushing for these extended bags, these big bags, which has been a big problem, because when you put potatoes in those big bags, the handling can never be easy. So there is dropping, dragging, and all this, because they are being handled by human beings. They affect the physiology of the potato, and therefore it's no longer suitable. And that's the time you see when you go producing chips and crisps, we have browning and all this. So we need to train our farmers. We need to give them the correct varieties. We need to promote the correct variety and then link them to the processors. And then the processors will produce the correct products, which now is delivered to these market outlet franchises. And that way, there's a benefit to everybody. And this is a very important step, because there's an element of increasing production to substitute imports, because a lot of these products are imported. There's also need to capture the market around the country, that is surrounding neighbors and Arab countries, where we have quite a high demand for frozen chips. So we are looking at the entire value chain and aiming higher, not just here now in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a small one. Are you involved in any academia potato council linkages that support the academia and generation of future researchers?
Yes, I think I even forgot one step. National Potato Council is made up of all the stakeholders. One of the big players are the universities and other academics. Like, we work very closely with Nairobi University. We work very closely with Egerton University. We work very closely with Eldoret, Professor Miriam. She has produced some varieties which we are promoting. And in these projects, we are trying to create awareness and do adaptive research. We already have variety, like CIP has over 1,000 varieties out there. We may not even need to do new research or breeding. We adapt them and do adaptive research and then market them. Breeding is already continuing, as I've told you, and what we are trying to do also, and now trying to disseminate that information. We are partnering with them in having what we call field demos in counties. We hold field demos twice in a year in potato producing counties, where we invite farmers to come and witness the new technologies in terms of new varieties. We have also other new technologies that we are trying to disseminate, which fast tracks or fasten. We call them rapid seed multiplication. One of them is apical cuttings. We also have another one that is coming into the country, which we are promoting, working with the KEFIS, CARO, and other research institutions, called Hybrid True Potato Seed. And this is also revolutionary. We are trying to ensure that it's adapted, and we'll be promoting it. A few varieties have been released of Hybrid True Potato Seed. Again, through SEHA, which I said is COMESA, East African Horticulture Accelerator. I am the chairman of the Kenyan chapter. We are bringing 3 crops together at the moment. This is potato, avocado, and onion, where we want to support small and medium enterprises in matching funds. So this is it's being formed. It's being structured so that we are able to support all these enterprises to be able to trade among ourselves. In Africa, I think there have been there's a move to intensify internal trading, Africa to African country, and that will help us a lot. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, with that, I'd like to move to the breeder, because you've talked about breeding a lot, and the hybrid. Professor Miriam. What she hasn't told you is that she's a world-renowned breeder. So, you've been breeding wheat for a long time. And I was recently told that Kenya has the capacity to produce its own wheat, sufficient. We don't need to be affected by the war somewhere in Europe. But as a breeder, we typically generate breeder seed. And then beyond that, we have to give it out or come to an agreement so that somebody else multiplies it until it's certified seed. In your long career, have you had an opportunity to engage in discussions whereby as a breeder, you get to benefit from your intellectual efforts, getting royalties out of the work that you have done? You can't do what the seed companies do, but the seed companies can't do what you do either. So I'm looking at that gap. Are there opportunities whereby you've had and you've negotiated for a good package as a breeder? You benefit from that? And if you haven't, what are the challenges that are associated with that? Is Mr. Kangongo giving you the right opportunities to negotiate with him? And two, you've worked for two or more, let me say more, organizations. You've worked for CALRO, you've also worked for University of Eldoret, fantastic institutions. And you've probably had different experiences about academia industry linkages. What are the lessons that we can learn so that we can improve this engagement between industry and academia? Karibu.
Okay, thank you, Daktari, and I will take up the challenge. Maybe the other thing that you might not have added to the mix is that I've also worked for the international setup. I have worked at the UN office in Vienna, still advancing crop improvement and management of crops. So I have the three experiences which have taught me a lot and which I would wish to talk about. And maybe, Daktari, before I answer about breeder seed and the lessons learned and also the challenges, I would wish to lay out a background. Because even when I was working with KARI, we had students, I wouldn't call them students, we had a relationship with Egerton University, whereby we would take our employees to there so that they do their theory work, and then they would bring their students, as well as our own, who would now do the practical research work. And that research work would come out that would be possible to sell to industry. When I joined the University of Eldoret, we still had students, and you would have these students who could create those varieties that you are asking about the royalties, but you find that industry is suffering without the right varieties, and the students are frustrated without the means to develop those varieties. So we are creating an environment for ourselves that we basically are punishing ourselves. We are beating ourselves. Instead of letting someone else beat us, we are beating ourselves. And that's why I'm excited with this relationship today. Now, to answer your question, yes, indeed, I am an international researcher, so to speak. We have developed varieties through interactions with, like the last variety that I released of wheat was a result or an output from research that was being undertaken by 32 countries in the world. We were together, and I happened to be the lead, or the university was the lead in that experiment. We came up with a variety. It's called Eldo Mavuno. Eldo Mavuno stood out as the best variety when it is tested amongst the existing ones, when it comes to yield, when it comes to diseases, when it comes to quality. It was a good one. Now, University of Eldoret says we have a good variety. Can seed companies take it up? Sorry to say, but you see, a seed company, where, especially during that time, early 2000s, they already had been pushed to start their own research so that they had developed their own varieties. Their varieties might not have been as good as Eldo Mavuno. But you see, if they promote Eldo Mavuno, they are killing their own, which, and that is maybe what we need to deal with here between ASNET and the academia, because ASNET says that they are coordinator, chairman. And if you are coordinating agriculture enterprise for all the stakeholders and trying to bring them together to see the synergy that can come up from that kind of interaction. So Eldo Mavuno couldn't be taken up, because if it is taken up, it will compete with those varieties which these companies had already come up with, which were inferior to this variety. Now, the University of Eldoret was registered as a seed company to manage that. But of course, you can imagine the university doesn't have capacity to be a seed company. Their capacity is to develop the varieties, to be the breeder. So if this is sorted out, I'm sure we would go great ways. I mean, we would achieve great things, because now academia would develop the varieties. Industry would be feeling comfortable to take up those varieties because they are being coordinated by ASNET. And I mean, not only the industry, including the academia. The academia is also being coordinated by ASNET. So ASNET is putting together all these synergies. And I truly agree with you, Dean, that I have been in wheat research. Prof is showing off how he's been in academia for a long time. I'd rather preserve mine, but I know very well that we have the capacity to produce enough wheat to satisfy our needs and to sell to the region without necessarily compromising the other crops. I mean, it's just again, ASNET being able to manage the value chains. Because if you're coordinating, you can coordinate the value chains and be able to say, maize, this is what we need, this is what the government has said to feed the population, this is how much we need. Wheat, potatoes, beans, and we are able to bring out the picture, facts which come out from research. And that's why it's beautiful that now we are thinking to move together. Because once you have facts, they are facts. So we won't be able to grow enough wheat. Now, I have already explained the conflict that comes between breeding and it being taken up, which should be sorted out. When it comes to royalties, I would love to be paid for my varieties. And actually, if I would be paid for my varieties, I'm sure I wouldn't be struggling here. I mean, I would be flying out there and having a good time in Malindi and Europe and Taveta. Yeah, the Taveta that we've been told. Because other people, other breeders who are rewarded for their efforts are rich. They have been able to make it. In our documents, there is the royalty that have been promised by the university. The same royalty that I was promised when I was in Kari. The percentages might differ, but each institution has committed that they will be able to give that royalty. But unless we produce enough breeder seed, and that breeder seed goes to companies for production, for commercial production, it's empty. So, and that's why I am yearning and really feeling good that we will go it this way. Organized production, organized development, so that we are able to be able to help the institutions that support crop improvement to be able to reward their employees, so that these employees can feel motivated to continue doing it better, getting something better, and industry will be feeling comfortable because varieties will be brought. So to answer your question, I don't think I've ever earned a shilling of all the results that I've produced. I feel satisfied as a public breeder, and having made it maybe in other ways, I'm fine. But it's not every breeder that is fine. I feel so sorry that some of the breeders look so miserable because as much as they are developing the varieties, they do not get a reward or a motivation towards that. So in the process of answering that, I think I've mentioned about the challenges. I mean, it's just filtering out. So there are those challenges. The institution is challenged. They don't have the means to reward the breeders. The seed movement is challenged because there is nothing that links the development with the utilization. So those are the challenges that are there. The farmers are struggling with varieties that are not fitting when they could be having better varieties and producing better and feeling okay to pay the royalty, because the royalty will definitely come from those ones who are growing. But if they are yielding 10 bags per acre, and you're telling them again you want to add a price to it, it's painful. But if they are producing 30 bags per acre, which is possible, why would they feel it as anything? So that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Very well put. And I share your sentiments because I'm a sweet potato breeder. So I know where you're coming from. So let's see if there's a framework that can try to improve, should I say, and try to bridge this gap. To answer that, I would allow me to come to you, Dr. Desai, with 3 issues. One, just talk to us a little bit about KATIC, the journey that it has taken up to now, the opportunities, and whether it's a model that can be replicated in other universities. Principal Secretary, and you haven't mentioned the fantastic work you did in equipping TVETs. That was commendable. So I'd like to turn that around. TVETs were very well equipped. I have a TVET right next to me. Probably got much better equipment than my university. Is there a way such an imbalance could be not necessarily removed, but to help universities? What are your thoughts now so that the universities can also be sufficiently equipped so that the breeders and pathologists and others have sufficient equipment to train tutors who will go to teach in the TVETs, so that we don't train them and then they go to TVETs and they wonder, oh, I never had this kind of equipment? How am I going to teach? That's the second one. And the third one is in the private sector. Having been in the private sector also, are there conversations about supporting, let's say, professors? One of the things that globally academicians yearn for is a professorial chair. You know, allow me to use your name, sir. The Kevin Desai Professor of Information Technology. And I say I'm a Kevin Desai Professor of Information Technology. Is that a conversation that's going on in the private sector so that we can help our academicians set up an endowment fund to support their work and to support PhDs and master's students? Thank you very much. If you could address those three issues, Karibu.
Thank you very much. Indeed, very interesting questions. The Kantari Agricultural Technology Innovation Center is a new design, new approach. It considers the fact that the key stakeholders that would promote productivity, innovation, efficiency, capacities as far as diversification of markets are fragmented. And it's one of the biggest challenges we've faced, to date, that we've really not put the incredible capacity that universities have, TVETs have, behind the transformation and opportunities within the market. To demonstrate, ladies and gentlemen, just have a look at all these exhibits that you see here today. There are incredible innovations emanating from universities, whether it's an improvement of a seed variety, a particular value chain and vegetable. You don't have to go very far. You actually just have to go around a couple of steps down here and see the exhibits. So then, we question, how is it possible that if such capacity exists, why is it disconnected from the main artery of transformation of agricultural food systems and competitiveness? Well, it's because that link doesn't exist. And so the Kantari Agricultural Technology Innovation Center is an all-out approach. It's a private sector-driven approach based on the fact that there are certain value propositions that the private sector needs as far as productivity, innovation, efficiency, and diversification. And to connect those needs to the framework of academia, but to ensure that it's youth-centered. Because many of these projects that you see here today are run by youth. They have the energy, they have the mindset of innovation and transformation. So in our careful design, we've ensured that within this context, this is all youth-centered, and it's inclusive to the entire academic system, which means that the University of Nairobi is a hub, and we hope to spoke it out with the other 40, 50 universities and 250 TVET institutions. And so the clear outcomes that we expect are developments and dialogue, which brings about different stakeholders to promote the cohesiveness and the relationship development, to address issues of trust, and to promote a co-creating environment towards outcomes of technology transfer, skills, education, research, commercialization. And ladies and gentlemen, the time is now to act on this platform because of the incredible amount of time that we've wasted in the past and have not realized the full potential. Further to that, there are various other innovations that we're putting in place, which include the possibility that our IP from our local institutions can access world markets. Why not? We're in this age where if our local private sector is not able to invest, we should be able to provide the opportunity to the world to invest in an IP that's been generated locally. So this is a very determined effort to link what we have in terms of academic capacities to markets. And indeed, it's private sector driven. It's the first of its kind. And we're hoping that a lot more stakeholders in private sector engage in this very meaningful and potential value proposition for their success as a sector and cluster. So at Gantari Agricultural Technology Innovation Center, the hope is that at the we're in process of our development, and we're hoping that for the sake of this plenary, that every month, the last Friday of every month, that there is a gathering of multiple stakeholders, and we start this dialogue, because a lot has to be about dialogue around value chains and the possibility to co-create and develop solutions for specific value chains. Now we're hoping at those dialogue sessions that we link the markets to academia, and we're able to then stimulate our youth to take a genuine commitment to agricultural transformation. With respect to your second question, indeed, when we are in government, we write policy, develop policy, co-create policy based on certain values. And within the context of education, the values have always been how to promote access of education, research skills to our population. How do we promote equity, which means essentially that how do we create systems and structures that reach everyone and are inclusive, in view of the fact that every child in this country has those traits of curiosity, creativity, and resourcefulness. And how do you create those pathways and links to ensure that they have an equal opportunity? We are also focused on values such as quality. There's of course the issue of quality and relevance, which is of concern to private sector. They're determined to be competitive, they're determined to be productive, innovative, efficient, transformative, diversified. But we're also, from a social perspective, expecting other forms of developments, which include life skills, leadership skills, etc., and so on. So that informs policy. In the case of Kenya's context, we have 1 million young people going into primary education. We have approximately 150,000 eligible for university education. And so there is a determined need and effort to create a national system of TVETs which addressed issues of artisans, craftsmen, master craftsmen, technicians, technologists, which are essentially the foundation of our aspiration as stakeholders today into how we're going to drive the agricultural sector based on our youth. And so the focus was to ensure that we expanded the network, to ensure that we, on one hand, had the necessary infrastructure to be accessible throughout the country in each constituency. And this means a lot for all stakeholders in this room, because many of your farms and initiatives are in each different county or constituency. But further to that, ladies and gentlemen, what is extremely relevant here and closely tied to the Agricultural Technology Innovation Center is the need for involvement within the context of ensuring that we are relevant and promote the necessary quality. And what that essentially means is we developed a policy called competency-based education and training. And I'm not going to describe the entire policy, but I'll, in one sentence, tell you how important it is for us to be involved. The policy is all about training to a standard that's measurable, the measurable standard that determines productivity, innovation, and efficiency. Now, the entire policy is inclusive to all stakeholders in this room. We've had incredible success in certain areas, like in Latia. We've developed tomato farms based on transformed standards, occupational standards. So what it requires, and one of the big asks in this room, is how do we create these sector councils around agriculture, around the Agricultural Technology Innovation Center, and really get the input of the market in terms of the standards that then determine the curriculum, the assessment system, and the teaching skills and capacities. And then you have a very effective value chain and a guaranteed value chain towards achieving one of your biggest challenges to date. How do you move productivity in the agricultural sector? Now, secondly, we developed another policy in view of the fact that your world as the agricultural fraternity and food systems world is highly dynamic, and therefore the policy on recognition of prior learning is about trying to find ways in which we're able to create pathways. Many of your technical people, your artisans, craftsmen, farmers, have learned through experience. Now, this is a mechanism to certify them and to ensure that we create additional pathways for them to be retrained into continuous training and lifelong training. This is absolutely critical. So these policies exist, but somehow or the other we need to find a way in which we connect them to industry, to the agricultural sector. And then we will have, therefore, addressed one of the most important and pertinent issues in terms of relevance and quality of skills. So this is available, and it's absolutely critical that we're discussing this today as to how we get involved, because this is about a joint responsibility, ability to co-create solutions, and ability to sort of respect that, you know, both sides have that capacity. Yes, the private sector has access to markets, but it's the academia that has the tools for research, skills, education. And we cannot be disjointed anymore. We cannot be disjointed to a certain extent that, yes, we do have several other small little projects around this country, but they're not scalable. And our issue is scalability. And therefore, you know, it can only happen if there is a dedicated commitment to investing in outcomes of productivity, innovation, efficiency. Ladies and gentlemen, indeed, on that third issue, and closely tied to the second, universities are an incredible resource that we have in this country. You know, the fact that we have a base of approximately 65 institutions is extraordinary in these times. It's not only serves our populations in Kenya, but has a potential to be the hub for all of Africa and specialize in specific areas that are absolutely critical for the continent. We do need to find a way in which we diversify incomes. There has to be a commitment to finding ways in which we promote the ability to commercialize IP and research. The exchequer of government is focused on capitation and education and training, but research and the ability to promote lifelong learning systems within academia is not really the responsibility only of academia. It's a joint relationship between industry and academia. If we are not able to do this, then we'll always have this predicament. And we'll lose out on one of the most important opportunities, issues of relevance, because it's research and lifelong learning that then informs education. So how is it possible that stakeholders and different associations don't put aside something beyond their advocacy to focus on education and research transformation? So this has to be an absolute guarantee. It's a contextual issue, it's a national issue of concern, it's a top priority, and we need to find a way in which we address this. There are other mechanisms to recognize, as you mentioned, you know, chairing departments as well as creating endowment systems and other kinds of technologies. But I think the biggest loss is the loss of understanding that there's so much potential in our academic system that needs to be unleashed. And so I'm really grateful that ASNet has really put this framework together. And there are other initiatives like the Kantari Agricultural Technology Innovation Center, which are now in the wings of ASNet, which hope to ensure that, you know, we really take this agenda forward. So what I would ask, ladies and gentlemen, is that I sincerely hope today, having shared this information, that you would be involved, because this is not about an insular approach, it's a collective approach. Please remember that I'm talking about every single TVET institution and university. We're looking at clusters. If Tharaka Nithi is famous for growing beans, then let's create a cluster in Tharaka Nithi for bean extension as well as bean transformation and value addition. If Kericha is famous for tea, then all the institutions could create a cluster based on this very important area. So I encourage you to be involved. There are various ways you can be involved: apprenticeships, internships, funding research, and being able to provide a clear map of your sector back to the academic institutions so that we're able to coordinate our efforts and create a value proposition for you, but also to promote the necessary leadership as far as co-creation is concerned, and the ability to understand that we're working as clusters. We're looking at the entire value chain from soil nutrition all the way up to food nutrition, and how that invokes your responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daktari. Quite loaded. And I'm already seeing quite a number of action points that are coming out of this. So finally, Prof, you have,
Yes.
and you're in academia. And you've also heard what Mr. Kagongwa said, and you're in academia. So my question to you is, from your long-term experience, what are the sort of issues? Because I'm now looking at the gaps that we need to fill, the challenges that you may have experienced, and probably that still do occur when you try to collaborate with industry. Are there specific issues that you would like to raise? And when I talk about agriculture, I mean both livestock, crops, environment, all that whole context. Are there issues that you feel are critical that you need to be addressed, let's say by a forum like this, and create action points around there for a fruitful collaboration? Karibu.
Thank you very much, moderator, and once more, good morning. I think the discussion that you're having here today is a very, very important discussion, which by the end of this summit, we're going to have specific action points. And I want to start by saying that there are quite a number of opportunities that we have as academia and which we have not exploited to the full. And if you look at the whole research process, I would want to say that possibly the academia and the industry come together and be involved in the whole research process. From problem identification, through doing research together, through our research findings to all the stakeholders. And I think this is one thing together. More importantly also, and this is something that we might want to start doing, is where possibly we need to start having collaboration is all about doing things together. So I'm basically then saying that there is need to have joint lectures. This is something that is not taking place very well, and I think this is something that we need to start thinking about. More importantly also, we also need to start thinking about staff exchanges. Can the academia move to the industry? Can the industry move to the universities? And possibly then universities should shed, I don't know whether it is still there, the ivory tower mentality, so that we can work very well with the industry. There are many other areas, and I think from the students' perspective, from the lecturers' perspective, even from the institutional level. At the institutional level, possibly we need to start developing facilities together, have some kind of core locational arrangements, and what have you, if you are developing farms, research agriculture teaching farms, if you are developing agricultural labs, I think this is where we can also collaborate. But more fundamentally, let's move to the challenges. One of the challenges, if I wanted to collaborate, for example, with the Cantaria Innovation and Technology Center, for example, if there is an institution that is bureaucratic, and I want to be challenged on this, are the universities, just like the Catholic Church. The universities are fairly bureaucratic. What is the chairman saying? What about the dean? What about the board of the faculty board? What about Senate? What about the dean's committee? What about Senate? What about council? All this you can see. If I was to write a letter today, as an ordinary lecturer in a university, there are so many throughs. And therefore, even if I was to come with a memorandum of understanding between Cantaria Innovation and Technology Center, we bounded with all these bureaucracies. More importantly also, I think we also need to change our mindset as universities. Because out there we are being accused of just churning out graduates that are half-baked. All we have done is given them a lot of theory without what we would call some hands-on and some practical training. And I would also want to be challenged on this, because if you look at the two institutions, the industry and the university, what are we seeing? We are seeing different objectives. These ones are in business, as possibly myself as a vice chancellor, possibly. Okay, I would want on the graduation day to be seen to have graduated so many without asking ourselves, what are they going out there to offer to the industry? And that's why I am happy that the Uplift program is basically going to talk about this. Having said that, then, I would want to say that all is not lost because we are facing some of these challenges that I've alluded to. At Kenyatta University, you all know, as you enter the gate, there's what we call the Chadaria Business Innovation and Incubation Center, okay, funded by the Chadaria Foundation. Okay, I was talking to my friend Dave from Amilan yesterday, and I think he was supposed to be with us today. And we are talking about our farm, that is Chuka University, our farm in Kairini. And what is happening there is Amilan have come, and basically they are helping us put the greenhouses, do all the irrigation, and what have you. And I think this is the kind of partnership, the kind of collaboration that we want. More fundamentally also, from the student's perspective, because we want to churn out a graduate who is going to be useful to the industry. A graduate is going to be useful to the country. A graduate is going to contribute to national development. So what are we saying? We have failed as universities to inculcate what I would call an entrepreneurial mindset in our students. And this is something that we need to start doing. There are many, many other opportunities, and I think my fellow panelists have alluded to them, where we can collaborate, where we can come together and see how best we can move this agricultural sector, because the agricultural sector is a very, very important sector, and its importance need not be gainsaid. Now, having said that, then, allow me possibly to mention that, and as I said earlier on, all is not lost. We are seeing initiatives. And I remember during the inception workshop of the Uplift workshop, we invited ASNET. The CEO, ASNET, was in attendance. And I'm seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, where we basically saying, let's bring the industry on board. What is it that ails industry-university linkages? That is something that we are addressing. How can we come up with innovative ways of teaching so that we produce a graduate that is going to be employable? Okay? And fundamentally, how are we going to make sure that we capacity build and capacity strengthen the academia so that we are able to do all these good things that we are talking about? I know as I talk here, there are many issues. Universities have many issues, and you know them. Issues of funding. So what are the people in academia and even in management preoccupied with? These are issues that we need to address going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. I couldn't have summarized it better. Self-introspection and also looking at the opportunities that are there. I wish to thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for all those insights. We have a few minutes of question and answers, probably just 3 questions. If I may say, if you asked a question yesterday, maybe you shouldn't ask. But again, somebody, okay, 1, 2, 3. I think let's start there first. Thank you. So, Dr. Thuita there, Dr. Caleb here, and Madam there.
Can I start?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Dr. John Thuita from the Meru University of Science and Technology. I want to begin by appreciating the very, very insightful sharings from the panelists. Very, very well presented. My one short comment and one question. Universities are aware that we need to improve the university's industry linkages. That's why when you go to universities, you will find innovation and incubation centers. We have one also. You will find a directorate of research, innovation, commercialization, and extension. We have one. But there is a problem. What we have are just baby steps. The key problem is a question of funding. My question is, is it possible for universities and they pitch their idea to those innovators, to those billionaires, and those ideas that are considered worthy of scale up are funded on the spot? I guess some of you can have an idea of what I'm talking about. Just bring the people with money, bring the people with ideas, and we know that the output from that meeting is some of those ideas will actually be funded for scale up. That's one question. One other little comment. I was very sad to hear what our Professor Miriam said about having a variety that, in her view, is the best globally as far as productivity and everything, but it's not being taken up because of the reasons that she gave. And I'm wondering, what's the problem? Is it that maybe during the development there wasn't adequate communication between the university and industry? Do the industry realize that there could be some benefit, a mutual benefit, in taking up this variety? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Caleb. I work for Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology. I want to address Miriam. I was very happy when Stephen was introducing himself, but I was praying that Miriam will not take that direction, because if she did, we will be here the whole day. That is the kind of person that I want to address. Miriam, I'm a plant breeder, and I know the kind of person that we need to teach, and I know that students that kind of broadness and trajectory. My question, you said that plant breeders, some of them are very miserable. I hope I'm not miserable. But I get your point. Plant Breeders Association of Kenya. Look at it in the early 90s, the robustness, the people that we have in this association. Where are they? are they really playing a part in the development of products that are supposed to make agriculture vibrant? Because they are somewhere. Then let us count the beans, the PhDs in agriculture, even plant breeding. How do we quantify this research, and how are they being translated to impact food systems in this country? And then let me take you to the curriculum. What is it that we need to change so that we just don't teach, we bring skills? When I was a young student, I was taught by a plant breeder from Joro. And his teaching was different from lecturers who were teaching me, who went to school, lab. Where are they? How can we bring them into classrooms so that the students have that kind of practical touch? And then finally, still with Miriam, the seed systems. The farmers struggling with the farmer retained seeds, the big companies, the Syngentas. How do we actually bring some harmony so that the farmer can actually get the hybrids without being exploited and without going into the issues of royalties and those kind of regulations that are supposed to govern the seed system? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Mary Mushiri. I come from Karatina University, but I'm talking as a food technologist, food value addition. My question, a quick one, because I know there is no time, goes to, and I appreciate that panel, and I wish we could have more of this, goes both to Dr. Desai and Mr. Wachira. And I'm talking that from a perspective of a food value add. When it comes to potatoes, what are you really doing to this for this country as far as promotion of value-added potatoes is concerned? And you know that's where we are going to generate jobs for our young people. And as well as still to Mr. Wachira, Irish potato, and there are very many other nutritional potatoes around, like orange fresh sweet potato, and many other indigenous root crops, like our arrowroots, etc., yams. What are you doing about improving or bringing on board value-added indigenous root crops that can benefit us and are more nutritious than what the warus we have always eaten in our fast foods hotels? And then my last one is now to Dr. Desai and the Cantaria Center. Very good idea. And I heard you say you are bringing on board stakeholders. What's the choice of your stakeholders that you make sure there is fair representation from TVET to academia? And you're saying it's a private-public partnership. So that when this thing comes, like the last question was asked, it's not just going to be theory, but remember we are also in the country struggling with the competence-based curriculum. How are you going to make sure that you, like what you have started telling us at the end, if it is Kabianga in having tea, or which other university has certain areas, it's within an area, and yet we know that you have put your center in Nairobi University, in the center, and in Nairobi, for that matter, and yet it's supposed to be an agricultural. It's okay to have it in Nairobi, but what mechanisms are you putting in place to ensure that all the crops are represented, or universities, specialities with different crops in the country? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So there are questions. We'll start, I think, from here. Just answer all the questions addressed to you.
On that issue, ladies and gentlemen, with respect to popularity of programs and popularity of research, I think this is precisely what the Kintaria Agricultural Technology Innovation Centers is going to do. It's the initiation of a dialogue based on demand. So we're hoping that, at the end of each month, the Friday of each month, we have different stakeholders coming together from different value chains and academia, and prioritizing and coordinating key areas of skills, education, research, and the ability to then focus on joint venturing together and partnering and collaborating. And so the fundamental issue here is that in a very dedicated space, there is that ability for us to transact, which doesn't exist at the moment. And it can't be between one and another, but it has to be several institutions because of the nature of academic prowess. You know, the ability for them to collaborate is also critical. Caratina University and Moore University, that ability to promote not only intra-collaboration within their faculties, but also institutional collaboration is a clear win and a value proposition for investment. So it starts with that dialogue, and we're hoping then that would attract billionaires and whoever it is who would be keen on understanding that, you know, indeed this is a phenomenal framework which could bring about outcomes of skills, education, and research, and enterprise creation. On that issue with respect to the curriculum, as I had mentioned earlier on, with respect to technical vocational training, it's a fairly straightforward process. It's the first of its kind in this country, which enables us as stakeholders, as industry leaders, to identify specific value chains and what is required as far as a standard, a measurable standard, like, for example, you know, what sort of agronomy is required, what are the standards for a particular crop, how do we create that capacity, then going on to how do we nurture plants, and it can go on to all sorts of value chain requirements, including transportation and packaging and standards testing, etc., and so on. But all of this has to be encapsulated in an agreement as far as standardization is concerned. The curriculum then achieves the standard, the assessment systems achieve the standard, and finally the assessment is carried out in collaboration between the productive sector and academia. So this is the framework, which is the base framework, which promotes skills at a national level. But it requires, therefore, a deep commitment and an involvement by stakeholders and industry leaders to come together to inform the success of the quality and relevance of curriculum. On the issue with respect to the Agricultural Technology Innovation Center, the criteria we're looking at is as follows. Indeed, it's best to work on a form of cluster capacities. Areas, for example, Caratina is famous for its tea and its university, and that ability for us to cluster capacities becomes absolutely critical. So we're not only looking at a relationship between the University of Nairobi, the Kintare Agricultural Technology Innovation Center, and all the technical vocational training institutions, but also universities. So by clustering, we're able to then create centers of excellence. We're able to also promote the coordination of private sector to collaborate with relevant vocational institutions for applied research or applied skills or applied extension. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if we can then further take this thought further to the next level, then we can imagine a national extension system based on this capacity. And so such is the ambition, that we ensure that this is a collaborative effort. The criteria is obviously for the academic side within the context of skills, education, research, extension, exhibition. But at the private sector level, we're looking at ways in which we attract the relevant stakeholders across an entire value chain to invest in this organized approach as far as how we promote the transformation of that particular value chain. So if it's tea, for example, you know, we're looking at everything from soil nutrition all the way up to the logistics, the packaging, the value addition, the joint research and the diversification of existing opportunities in industry and so on, all the way up to the skills, the technology transfer, the ability to find ways in which we create pathways for adaptation and adoption of different forms of technologies, whether it's sensorics, robotics, drones, other kinds of value addition and processing technologies. As illustrated by my colleague, these value chains are highly extensive, and what we're trying to do as clusters and what the ambition is to ensure that they become cohesive enough and concise enough and more dedicated to a particular value chain. And that's the challenge to all of us. How do we form that collaboration? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The question came from Dr. Mary Mushiri about value addition. And I would like to report that the project I mentioned, that is the Kenya Sustainable Potato Initiative, is looking at expansion of utilization of potato. If you compare Kenya with developed countries, you'll find that potato contributes so much to their economy compared to ours, because it is used to produce other things like starch, flour, dehydrated cubes, and all this. Here in Kenya, we are importing starch worth 2.5 billion every year. We want to substitute that. This program is, through this program, we are partnering with Caro and processing companies to look at other utilization mechanism or other products that can be produced by the processors, so that when we go to buy, or when people go to buy potatoes from farmers, they are not only selecting the big ones and leaving the smaller ones and the cut ones. So we want to enable them to pick everything from the farmer, and then depending on the grade and the quality, they are channeled to different utilizations. We are very aware that potato is far much better to feed the hunger-stricken community, especially potato flour, compared to maize. And this is another area that we are looking at. So yes, we are looking at expansion of utilization, and we have partnered with the Caro and other partners to come up with those and promote. We look at what can be adopted, and then we promote through the project. And also storage is another area that we are looking at in terms of looking at the guidelines, how to store potato for long, so that we even out the supply to the processors. Potatoes are also very nutritious if you look at the composition of potato, but also we have what we call fortified potatoes in our kitchens. But yes, we have other nutritious food like domas, that is arrowroot or cocoyams. We have sweet potatoes, which are also key, and we need to look at the value chain. I also happen to be a director in AFA, that is Agricultural Food Authority, in charge of food crops. And what we are doing there is ensuring that these crops are scheduled to be supported in terms of seed availability, standards, and quality, for them to be promoted and be supported. So some of these, like Doma and others, are being scheduled for that support, for us to be able to support them. Yes, it's yeah.
Sorry, I'm told that I've way overshot my time, so just conclude.
Thank you.
And, all right. And then, so Professor Miriam, just wind up in 30 seconds.
Thank you, Dr. Ari. I have 30 seconds to answer 5 questions. Let me try. And I will start with my colleague from Chuka University about research versus industry, to say why wouldn't it be taken up? It's a very genuine concern and a good question. The fact is that the research that we do, the thesis that are undertaken for masters and PhD are not directed by industry. They are directed either by the funding agent or the professor or the researcher thinks about at that particular time. And that's why I'm excited, Chair ASNET again, that we have now thought so that we can be able to tailor-make the research. Because getting a study that has been done outside industry to be tailored to fit industry is a challenge. But getting it set from the very beginning to be directed to industry, you don't need any transformation. You don't need any changing of to try and change the outfit. It will already have been set from the very beginning. 2 years ago, I won an international award, and it's just because I would take students and put them together, and they would study different aspects of our project. Every year, I have about 5 students of either PhD or MSc. So you can imagine if I did it for Kagongo here, for potato industry. I take 5 students. It's just like a swallow of water, and you're able to get things that have been studied that are directed. So I think that's what we did. We erred in studying for the sake of academics instead of for the sake of industry. ASNET members are complaining that the students we are bringing out do not fit their needs. On the other hand, we are complaining that the students we are getting out are not getting anywhere to industry. A thesis would cost less than the hit and run that industry is doing to try and get answers to the problems that they have. A thesis would be cheaper. But you see, because we haven't synchronized our minds, and I like the way Daktari was talking about clustering capacity. You know, we look at where is capacity, we cluster it, we sort out a problem, we are headed to good times. My colleague from Jaramogi, thank you for your kind words. Yeah, we are there to serve the Kenyan. And some of us, we are passionate and drunk with wanting to serve the Kenyan. Where are the breeders? Yeah, I mean, we have very outstanding breeders, but why would I kill myself to go on to nowhere and rather just sit? Because there is no direction. It's just going into the bush. But now, I am excited that we have the thought of bringing academia and research into industry. Because then, it will be purposeful. It will be responding to a need. And therefore, I'm sure those classical breeders who are out there, who are maybe just whiling their time out there, will come up and do some appropriate research. PhDs in agriculture impacting food systems, that's what we should be doing. But we haven't done it in the past. Now we just need to be able to sustainably, again, ASNET, to sustainably undertake a 10-year undertaking so that we get that result. Curriculum change is not necessary. It's just to apply curriculum. I'm sure the curriculums are well set, but if I do not have the practical aspect, I won't be able to apply it. So we need to also have our minds influenced so that we do not just take students through theory, we undertake the curriculum in its fullness. The advantage that as people we have, like for me, I came from Kari, where I was doing research. So teaching has been easier because I can apply the practicability of the research. Harmony in the seed systems, it's the last thing. Harmony in the seed systems to protect the farmer. I agree with you. It's the way to go. And those are the things that we expect that ASNET will work on because they have the ability, and the researchers and the academia do not have the ability. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. I think now that will bring us to the end of this. I know Professor Wambugu has a lot to say, but I'll just on. You have a big platform in the Dean's Forum and probably later on when you are Wainon.
Dean, can I just make one statement to summarize what's happening? Because I think it's quite important. A lot of stuff is happening, and we need to move forward with ASNET, and Professor Miriam keeps challenging us. What I'm proposing, Dean, is you have a meeting after this, right? All the deans are meeting downstairs. You need to come to some conclusion today on how university is going to work with private sector. Private sector is here, we're all listening. We have CATIC. You know, we're doing our best to reach out to universities, but I'm worried what your first speaker said. There's so much bureaucracy in universities. You are in a perfect position downstairs to form a small committee, team, whatever, to then have a liaison committee with us, as in private sector, with Agatha and our team, so that we don't leave today without an action plan and an action committee set in place. I would propose if you put Professor Miriam as maybe your representative or something like that, because she's part of ASNET and she's part of university. She may not be a dean, I don't know, but form a small 3 or 4 person committee who then is going to work with us in private sector, so we have something concrete. I'm also proposing, Dean, that CATIC is your building. It's for academics to bring it to private sector. Use it. Use Dr. Desai's team. And maybe this committee that you form, maybe Dr. Desai forms a small team with him with private sector companies, and using this value-based approach where every other Friday, whatever you meet, then you can coordinate and bring research and academics. Innovation academics. Somebody mentioned a fund. So we are now setting up a fund to invest in businesses. But you have to give us people where we can coordinate. Hungary Embassy is giving us $100,000, and we're putting $100,000 from Elgin to start investing in small businesses, right? So there is money available, but if we don't leave today with some concrete planning, I think we're going to miss a golden opportunity, please. Thank you.
Maybe, Chair, may I put a complementary point there? Bureaucracies are everywhere. So it's just us to be able to handle our bureaucracy and manage it. I mean, there is no, even like I said, I've worked with the international community, there's bureaucracy. So it is us to know how to deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bimal. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll give a general parting shot. If I give my colleagues to say, it will be another half an hour. So I think what I can say is that we've had a fantastic discussion, industry and academia, and we've exchanged fantastic views. We've seen the opportunities that are there, that are the invitations to partner together, and we are going to take that one up. Professor Wambugu, Professor Miriam, we have received that challenge. As we go down there, please lead us in that issue, so that by the end of today, we have actionable points together with our fellow deans who are here. So with that, I would say thank you very much. I really appreciate this panel, and let us give them a fantastic hand clap. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. No, let us give them a hand, a better one. For sure, this could have gone on and on. It's a loaded one. If you see the topic, it's also wide. So when we saw it even yesterday, we were already thinking it will go on. We were already aware that it might continue. And therefore, thank you so much for your patience. I think it was a longer one than even yesterday. And therefore, since it was summarized very well by Dr. Bimal, what to do, and also the team members here, when you go down to Taifa Hall,
definitely this will be made into a concrete, approach, or let's say a strategy. And then in the evening, as we close, these 10 action points, definitely I'm sure there's going to be very solid and concrete, actionable, points that will come from there also. Now we are also running into the same issue yesterday of time management. We are a big team. I said yesterday we have to do it together. Sometimes it's not easy because the points and the discussions, are going on, and it is okay. But I think with a summit like this, you will tell me how do we proceed so that in the evening, we are not having too much pressure. Just to make an announcement as it has come, the tea break is now. So there's hope for tea, and I believe it will be sufficient. So, but two things. One, the team that is here in this hall, your tea is just exactly where you took it yesterday. But the team of the University Agriculture Dean Forum will go to Taifa, like you did in the morning and came back. So this is where you're going to take your tea and then continue with the discussion. I think Madam Agatha will be with you so that you continue with your conversations. We'll converge later. I think we'll see how to coordinate later on. For the panel discussions, Madam Linda Oluoch, please, you'll be the next one. We have already discussed, but I would request, like she already said, maybe you can already have a small conversation with the team, and also the same with Waithera, Laido, that you can have your teams. That is one of the things that is also taking time, that maybe you don't know whether the person is here, and then there's time to discuss. And then you can agree on how to compress it. The conversation, of course, producing quality discussion, but not very lengthy, as much as you can. So I think I'll invite you now to go for tea. Yeah, please, prepare to go for tea. And then we are saying at most 30 minutes, then we are back. 30 minutes means 25 minutes past noon. No, not past 11, sorry. 20 minutes past 11. And because we are many, please let us be here by that time so that we can be able to redeem time and continue. Of course, there's going to be a break before we do Madame Oluoch panel. A presentation from, we'll make a break so that we have a break between the panel discussions, and I think it's ready to go. So when we come back, Maya will make a presentation.